Trump has singled out Princess Kate during his state banquet speech at Windsor Castle, praising her as radiant, healthy, and so beautiful as she sat on his right. How did she react to that, Kinsey?
You won't believe what Trump just said to Princess Catherine at the royal banquet that has the entire world talking. While 160 shocked guests watched in stunned silence, Trump went completely off script and made a comment so jaw-dropping that even seasoned diplomats couldn't hide their horror. The cameras caught Princess Catherine's reaction, and it will leave you speechless. This explosive moment broke every royal protocol rule and created the biggest scandal of Trump's state visit.
Melania and I are deeply grateful to you and Queen Camilla for your extraordinary graciousness. And to William and Kate, thank you so much. It's been so great being with you today. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's a singular privilege to be the first American president welcomed here. And if you think about it, it's a lot of presidents. And
What happened next will shock you to your core. President Donald Trump's second state visit to the United Kingdom began on a Wednesday afternoon that would quickly become one of the most discussed moments in recent royal diplomatic history. As Marine One touched down on the pristine grounds of Windsor Castle, the scene was set for what should have been a routine ceremonial greeting between world leaders and members of the British royal family. The helicopter landing itself was a spectacle of precision and pageantry. Trump emerged from the aircraft with his characteristic confident stride, immediately raising his hand in a salute to acknowledge the assembled officials and security personnel who had gathered to witness this historic moment. The president was making history as the first elected political leader in modern times to receive a second state visit from a British monarch, having previously been hosted by the late Queen Elizabeth II in 2019. Waiting to greet the American president and First Lady Melania Trump were Prince William, the Prince of Wales, and his wife Catherine, the Princess of Wales. The choice of these particular royals to conduct the initial greeting was itself significant, representing the future of the monarchy and demonstrating the importance Britain placed on maintaining strong ties with the United States. The couple stood poised and ready, embodying the dignity and protocol that has characterized royal ceremonies for centuries. The initial greeting between Trump and Prince William proceeded exactly as diplomatic protocol would suggest. The two men shook hands with the appropriate level of formality, exchanging brief pleasantries as cameras captured every moment for the international media. Trump had previously described Prince William as a good-looking guy and very handsome in past encounters, and their interaction appeared comfortable and familiar, suggesting a rapport that had developed during Trump's previous state visit. However, it was what happened next that would send shockwaves through the royal watching community and diplomatic circles worldwide. As Trump turned his attention to Catherine, Princess of Wales, the interaction took an unexpected and unprecedented turn. Instead of the standard diplomatic greeting that observers had come to expect from such ceremonial occasions, Trump shook Catherine's hand and immediately declared, "You're beautiful, so beautiful." The comment landed like a bombshell in the carefully choreographed world of royal protocol. Catherine, demonstrating the poise and training that comes with years of royal duties, maintained her composure completely. She showed no visible reaction to Trump's unexpected personal observation, neither appearing flustered nor acknowledging the comment in any way that might have made the situation more awkward than it already was. Instead, she smoothly transitioned to greeting First Lady Melania Trump, extending her hand with the same grace and dignity she had maintained throughout the encounter. Royal historians and protocol experts who witnessed the exchange were quick to analyze what had just occurred. Justin Vovuk, a respected royal historian with the Institute for the Study of the Crown in Canada, provided immediate commentary on the unprecedented nature of Trump's greeting. According to Vovuk, while Trump had not technically breached any official royal protocol, his comment represented something far more problematic from a diplomatic standpoint. The expert explained that there are no strict rules requiring visitors to bow or curtsy when meeting members of the royal family, though many people choose to observe these traditional forms of respect. However, making personal comments about a royal family member's physical appearance crosses into territory that is considered highly inappropriate in diplomatic circles. VOVK described the moment as having so many levels of cringe and characterized Trump's behavior as very awkward. More significantly, the royal historian explained that Trump's comment transgressed the unofficial rules of personal diplomacy that govern interactions between world leaders and members of constitutional monarchies. These unwritten rules exist to maintain the dignity and respect that such encounters require, particularly when they are being broadcast to audiences around the world and represent the relationship between two major nations. The inappropriateness of the comment becomes even more apparent when considering the context in which it occurred. This was not a casual social gathering or private meeting, but rather a formal state occasion with significant diplomatic implications. The British royal family's role in such events is to represent the continuity and dignity of the British state, while maintaining strict political neutrality. Members of the royal family are accustomed to receiving comments about their appearance from members of the public during walkabouts and public engagements. But such personal observations are simply not made during formal diplomatic encounters, especially not by visiting heads of state. The incident highlighted the stark cultural differences between Trump's informal, often impulsive communication style and the centuries-old traditions that govern royal protocol. Throughout his political career, Trump has been known for making spontaneous comments about people's physical appearance, often believing such remarks to be charming or complimentary. However, what might be acceptable in a business meeting or campaign rally becomes deeply problematic when applied to formal diplomatic protocol. Royal watchers and diplomatic experts noted that this type of behavior is essentially unprecedented in the modern era of royal state visits. While there have certainly been awkward moments and minor protocol breaches in the past, the directness and personal nature of Trump's comment to Catherine represented something entirely new in the careful world of royal diplomacy. The moment was made even more significant by the fact that it was captured by multiple cameras and would be broadcast around the world. Unlike private diplomatic conversations that might contain informal moments, this greeting was always intended to be a public representation of the relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom. Trump's comment would now become part of the permanent record of this historic second state visit. As the royal party moved across the lawn toward King Charles III and Queen Camilla, who were waiting to conduct the more formal ceremonial welcome, the impact of Trump's opening comment had already begun to ripple outward. Social media platforms immediately began buzzing with reactions from royal watchers, diplomatic experts, and members of the general public who had witnessed the exchange. The incident served as an early indicator that this state visit would be unlike any other, setting a tone that would continue throughout the day and culminate in an even more shocking moment during the evening's formal state banquet. What had begun as a routine ceremonial greeting had already become one of the most talked about moments in recent royal history, demonstrating once again that Trump's approach to diplomacy would always be unpredictably different from conventional expectations. As the afternoon progressed toward the evening's main event, anticipation began building for what would be one of the most spectacular royal occasions of the year. The state banquet at Windsor Castle represents the pinnacle of royal pageantry, combining centuries of tradition with the kind of glamour that only the British monarchy can deliver. For Catherine, Princess of Wales, this evening would provide an opportunity to showcase not just her personal style, but also the continuity and elegance that defines the modern royal family. The preparation for such an event begins hours before the first guest arrives. Teams of royal staff work meticulously to ensure every detail meets the exacting standards expected for a state banquet, while the principal members of the royal family prepare for what is essentially a performance of statecraft through ceremony. For Catherine, this preparation would involve selecting an ensemble that would honor both British fashion design and the historical significance of the occasion. When the moment finally arrived for Catherine to make her entrance into St. George's Hall at Windsor Castle, the result was nothing short of breathtaking. The Princess of Wales appeared in what can only be described as a masterpiece of contemporary British couture, wearing a creation that would immediately cement its place in royal fashion history. Her choice of designer for this crucial evening was Philippa Leplay, a British couturier known for her exquisite craftsmanship and attention to detail. The gown itself was a study in understated elegance and technical brilliance. Catherine wore a silk crepe dress that served as the foundation for the evening's true showstopper, a full-length evening coat that represented hours of meticulous handwork by skilled artisans. The coat was crafted from gold chantilly lace, a material choice that immediately elevated the ensemble from merely beautiful to absolutely stunning. What made this coat truly extraordinary was the level of detail that had gone into its creation. Every inch of the gold chantilly lace had been hand-embroidered with an intricate pattern of roses, each flower carefully crafted using couched gold cording that caught and reflected the light as Catherine moved. The embroidery technique employed was complex and time-consuming, requiring the kind of skill that represents the very best of British craftsmanship. The roses themselves were not simple outlines, but fully realized botanical representations, complete with French knots that added texture and dimension to each bloom. Satin-stitched details provided additional depth and richness to the overall design, creating an effect that was both opulent and refined. The golden thread used throughout the embroidery complemented the base color of the chantilly lace perfectly, creating a cohesive look that seemed to glow under the warm lighting of the castle's historic halls. The choice of gold as the dominant color for the evening was particularly significant. Gold has long been associated with royalty and state occasions, representing not just wealth and luxury, but also the enduring nature of monarchical traditions. For Catherine, wearing gold to welcome the American president sent a subtle message about the importance Britain placed on this diplomatic relationship, while also positioning her as a central figure in the evening's proceedings. However, it was Catherine's choice of accessories that truly elevated the ensemble from spectacular to legendary. The Princess of Wales selected the lover's knot tiara for the evening, a piece that carries with it layers of royal history and emotional significance. This particular tiara was originally created for Queen Mary in the early 20th century, featuring a design of diamond-set lover's knots alternating with hanging pearl drops. The tiara's most famous association, however, is with Princess Diana, who received it as a wedding gift from Queen Elizabeth II and wore it frequently throughout her years as the Princess of Wales. The lover's knot tiara became one of Diana's signature pieces, appearing in countless photographs and royal portraits that helped define her public image. For Catherine to choose this particular tiara for such a significant state occasion was a powerful statement about continuity within the royal family and her own role as the current Princess of Wales. The selection was made even more poignant by the fact that Catherine has worn this tiara on several previous occasions, gradually making it her own, while still honoring its connection to her late mother-in-law. Each time she wears the piece, it serves as a visual reminder of the legacy she has inherited and the role she now plays within the royal family structure. Complementing the tiara were diamond earrings that carried their own historical significance. These earrings had belonged to Queen Elizabeth II, representing another connection to recent royal history and the continuity of the monarchy across generations. The choice to wear jewelry from the late Queen's collection demonstrated Catherine's understanding of her position within the broader context of royal tradition and her respect for the institution she now serves. The combination of the golden gown and the sparkling diamonds created an effect that was both timeless and thoroughly contemporary. Catherine managed to honor royal traditions while still appearing completely modern and relevant, a balance that has become her signature approach to royal dressing. The overall look spoke to her understanding of fashion as a form of communication, using her appearance to convey messages about British craftsmanship, royal continuity, and the importance of the evening's diplomatic proceedings. As Catherine moved through the pre-dinner reception, the impact of her ensemble became immediately apparent. Fellow guests, including some of the world's most powerful political figures and business leaders, could be seen taking notice of her appearance. The golden lace coat created a stunning visual effect as it caught the light from the castle's chandeliers, while the historical jewelry added an element of gravitas that reinforced the significance of the occasion. The Princess of Wales had clearly understood the assignment for this evening. She needed to look appropriately regal for a state banquet, while also representing the best of British fashion and craftsmanship. She needed to honor royal traditions, while still appearing contemporary and relatable. Most importantly, she needed to project the kind of confidence and elegance that would make her a worthy representative of the British monarchy on the international stage. What Catherine could not have anticipated was how her stunning appearance would soon become the focal point for one of the most controversial moments in recent royal diplomatic history. Her careful preparation and flawless execution of royal glamour would inadvertently set the stage for comments that would generate headlines around the world and spark discussions about the intersection of personal remarks and diplomatic protocol. The irony was not lost on royal observers that Catherine's effort to perfectly embody royal elegance and British sophistication would ultimately make her the unwitting center of a diplomatic incident that would overshadow much of the evening's intended political messaging. The transformation of Windsor Castle's St. George's Hall for a state banquet is a logistical masterpiece that combines centuries of tradition with meticulous modern planning. As evening approached on this historic Wednesday, the ancient walls of the castle were preparing to host one of the most significant diplomatic gatherings of the year. The hall itself, with its soaring Gothic architecture and intricate stone carvings, provides a backdrop that few venues in the world can match for sheer grandeur and historical significance. St. George's Hall stretches nearly 185 feet in length and represents one of the finest examples of Gothic Revival architecture in Britain. The hall's vaulted ceiling, adorned with the coats of arms of Knights of the Garter, creates an atmosphere of majesty that immediately impresses upon guests the weight of the occasion they are attending. For this particular evening, the hall had been transformed into a dining room worthy of the diplomatic importance of Trump's second state visit. The guest list for the evening read like a who's who of international power brokers, technology leaders, and diplomatic figures. Among the 160 carefully selected attendees were some of the most influential people in the world, each invited for their specific relevance to British-American relations. Tim Cook, the chief executive of Apple, represented the crucial technology sector that forms such an important part of the modern economy, linking the two nations. His presence acknowledged the growing importance of tech companies in international relations and economic partnerships. Also in attendance was Sam Altman, the chief executive of OpenAI, whose company has become synonymous with the artificial intelligence revolution that is reshaping global economics and social structures. His invitation recognized the critical role that AI development plays in both countries' strategic interests and the need for continued cooperation in this rapidly evolving field. Jensen Huang, the chief executive of NVIDIA, rounded out the tech leadership presence, representing the semiconductor industry that has become central to national security discussions and economic competitiveness. The inclusion of these technology leaders alongside traditional diplomatic figures demonstrated the modern reality of international relations, where economic partnerships often carry as much weight as formal political agreements. Their presence also reflected the British government's understanding that maintaining strong relationships with American business leaders could be just as important as the formal diplomatic protocols being observed throughout the visit. The seating arrangement for such an event is never left to chance. Royal protocol officers spend considerable time planning exactly where each guest will sit, taking into account not just diplomatic hierarchy, but also the potential for meaningful conversations and the visual impact for media coverage. The head table, positioned at the far end of the hall beneath some of the room's most impressive architectural features, was reserved for the most senior members of both delegations. The centerpiece of the evening's dining arrangement was a magnificent 170-pound candelabrum featuring an intricate metalwork design of St. George slaying his dragon. This imposing piece served not just as decoration, but as a symbol of British heritage and the legendary foundations upon which the nation's identity has been built. The candelabrum's placement directly above the head table meant that the evening's most important conversations would take place literally beneath this representation of British mythology and tradition. The strategic positioning of President Trump at this head table was the result of careful diplomatic calculation. Placing him between King Charles III and Princess Catherine ensured that he would be at the absolute center of the evening's proceedings, flanked by representatives of both the current monarchy and its future. This arrangement acknowledged Trump's status as the guest of honor, while also ensuring that he would be in constant conversation with his host throughout the meal. The decision to seat Catherine directly to Trump's right was particularly significant given the events of the afternoon. After his unexpected personal comments during the helicopter greeting, royal protocol officers might have been forgiven for reconsidering the seating plan. However, maintaining the predetermined arrangement demonstrated the royal family's commitment to diplomatic protocol and their confidence in Catherine's ability to handle whatever conversation might arise during the evening. From Catherine's perspective, this seating arrangement placed her in a position of considerable responsibility. As the future queen consort, she would be expected to engage in meaningful conversation with the American president throughout the meal, helping to facilitate the kind of personal diplomacy that can often be more valuable than formal negotiations. Her role was to represent the best of British charm and intelligence while maintaining the dignity expected of a senior royal. The visual impact of this arrangement was not lost on the media and photographers, who would be capturing key moments throughout the evening. With Trump positioned between the current and future generations of the monarchy, every photograph would emphasize the continuity of the relationship between Britain and America across different eras and leadership styles. The golden glow from Catherine's spectacular ensemble would provide a striking visual contrast to the formal evening wear of the male diners, ensuring that she would be prominent in every wide shot of the head table. The broader dining room arrangement reflected the careful balance required for such an event. British politicians, American business leaders, and diplomatic figures were strategically placed to maximize the potential for productive conversations, while maintaining the social harmony essential for a successful evening. Each table assignment had been carefully considered to ensure that guests would find themselves in stimulating company, while avoiding any potentially awkward political or personal combinations. The physical setting itself contributed to the evening's atmosphere of gravitas and importance. The hall's ancient stone walls, illuminated by carefully positioned lighting, created shadows and highlights that emphasized the Gothic architecture, while providing flattering illumination for the guests. Crystal chandeliers suspended from the vaulted ceiling cast a warm glow over the proceedings, while the long dining tables, set with the finest royal china and crystal, created lines of elegance that drew the eye naturally toward the head table. The acoustics of St. George's Hall, designed for medieval ceremonies and royal gatherings, meant that speeches delivered from the head table would carry clearly throughout the space. This architectural feature would soon become crucial as the evening's formal program began, and both King Charles and President Trump prepared to address the assembled guests. The hall's design ensured that every word spoken by the evening's key figures would be heard clearly by all attendees, amplifying the impact of whatever remarks might be made. As the guests took their assigned seats and the evening's formal program began, the stage was perfectly set for what should have been a masterpiece of diplomatic entertainment. The combination of historical grandeur, carefully curated guest list, and strategic seating arrangements had created the ideal environment for strengthening international relationships through personal interaction and shared experience. However, the very success of this careful planning would soon become the backdrop for a moment that none of the protocol officers could have anticipated, demonstrating that even the most meticulously planned diplomatic events remain vulnerable to the unpredictable nature of human interaction. As the evening's formal program began, the atmosphere in St. George's Hall had settled into the comfortable rhythm that characterizes the finest diplomatic occasions. The 160 distinguished guests had taken their assigned seats, conversations had begun to flow naturally across the elegant dining tables, and the ancient walls of Windsor Castle seemed to embrace another chapter in the long history of British-American relations. The carefully orchestrated seating arrangement had placed President Trump in the position of honor between King Charles III and Princess Catherine, setting the stage for what protocol officers had envisioned as an evening of dignified diplomatic exchange. The formal speaking portion of the evening began with King Charles III delivering his prepared remarks. The monarch's speech followed the traditional format expected for such occasions, touching upon the shared history between Britain and America, the challenges facing both nations, and the importance of continued cooperation on the global stage. Charles spoke eloquently about the bonds forged through 2 world wars, the ongoing partnership in addressing international conflicts, and the special relationship that has defined Anglo-American relations for generations. The King's address demonstrated the careful balance required of a constitutional monarch during such events. His remarks needed to acknowledge the political realities facing both nations, while maintaining the political neutrality that defines the royal family's role in British governance. He spoke about the threat posed by Russian aggression in Ukraine, praising the alliance between Britain and America in supporting Ukrainian resistance. He also made lighthearted references to Trump's British heritage and his fondness for British golf courses, comments that drew appreciative laughter from the assembled guests. Throughout the King's speech, Trump listened attentively, occasionally nodding in agreement and appearing genuinely engaged with the ceremonial aspects of the evening. Seated between the monarch and Princess Catherine, he was clearly positioned as the evening's most honored guest, with photographers capturing his reactions and interactions throughout the formal program. The president appeared relaxed and comfortable in this grand setting, suggesting that his previous state visit experience had familiarized him with the protocols and expectations of such occasions. When King Charles concluded his remarks and took his seat, it was time for President Trump to deliver his response on behalf of the United States. Trump rose from his position at the head table, and the hall fell into the respectful silence expected during formal remarks. The president began by reading from his prepared text, expressing his gratitude for the warm welcome he and the First Lady had received, and acknowledging the honor of being the first American president to receive a second state visit from a British monarch. Trump's initial remarks followed the expected diplomatic format, praising King Charles for his decades of service and his commitment to environmental causes, architecture preservation, and support for veterans. The president spoke about the shared values and heritage that bind America and Britain together, describing the 2 nations as being like 2 notes in one chord or 2 verses of the same poem. His speechwriter had clearly crafted remarks designed to honor both the formal nature of the occasion and the personal relationships being celebrated. The speech continued in this vein for several minutes, with Trump appearing to stick closely to his prepared text. He praised the British Empire's contributions to law, liberty, and free speech, acknowledging the foundations that British institutions had provided for American democracy. He spoke about Winston Churchill, mentioning that the wartime leader's bust held a place of honor in the Oval Office, and he emphasized the unbreakable bonds between the 2 nations. As Trump reached the section of his speech dealing with the royal family, he maintained the formal tone that had characterized his remarks thus far. He spoke warmly about King Charles, praising the monarch's dedication to his duties and his service to the British people. The president then turned his attention to the younger generation of royals, describing Prince William as a remarkable son, and expressing his confidence that the Prince of Wales would have an unbelievable success in future. It was at this precise moment that the evening took an unexpected and unprecedented turn. Having praised Prince William, Trump's remarks shifted to acknowledge Princess Catherine, who was seated directly to his right at the head table. Following his prepared text, the president began by expressing his and Melania's delight at visiting again with Prince William. He continued reading from his notes as he addressed Princess Catherine's presence in the evening. "Melania and I are delighted to visit again with Prince William, and to see Her Royal Highness Princess Catherine so radiant and so healthy and so beautiful," Trump declared, his voice carrying clearly throughout the ancient hall. The words themselves, while effusive in their praise, remained within the bounds of what might be expected from a diplomatic speech acknowledging the royal family's hospitality. However, What happened next would transform this moment from a standard diplomatic courtesy into one of the most discussed incidents in recent royal history. Having completed his prepared remarks about Princess Catherine, Trump deviated entirely from his written text. He turned directly toward Catherine, making eye contact with the Princess of Wales, and added with unmistakable emphasis, "It's true, beautiful." The effect of these unscripted words was immediate and palpable. The comfortable murmur of conversation that had provided a gentle backdrop to the formal speeches ceased entirely. The 160 distinguished guests, including world leaders, business executives, and diplomatic figures, found themselves witnessing a moment that had no precedent in the carefully regulated world of royal protocol. Princess Catherine, demonstrating the poise and training that has become her hallmark, maintained her composure with remarkable grace. She looked up at President Trump, acknowledged his comment with a polite nod and a diplomatic smile, but her reaction spoke volumes about the unexpected nature of what had just occurred. Her response struck exactly the right balance between acknowledging the president's words without encouraging further personal commentary. The silence that followed Trump's off-script remark seemed to stretch longer than it actually lasted, but the discomfort was evident throughout the hall. Guests exchanged glances, uncertain how to respond to what they had just witnessed. The moment represented a collision between Trump's characteristically direct communication style and the formal protocols that govern interactions between heads of state and members of the royal family. Royal protocol officers, watching from their positions around the hall, had no precedent to guide their response to such a moment. While Trump's words were not technically offensive, they represented a level of personal commentary that simply does not occur during formal state occasions. The comment highlighted the fundamental differences between American political culture, where personal remarks are often seen as friendly and engaging, and British royal tradition, where such observations are considered inappropriate regardless of intent. The incident was made all the more significant by the fact that it was being broadcast live to audiences around the world and recorded by multiple media outlets. Trump's spontaneous addition to his prepared remarks would become part of the permanent record of this historic state visit, ensuring that the moment would be analyzed and discussed long after the evening's conclusion. As Trump returned to his prepared text and continued with the remainder of his speech, the hall gradually returned to its previous atmosphere. But the impact of those unscripted words had already begun to ripple outward into the broader world of diplomatic commentary and royal watching. The immediate aftermath of President Trump's unscripted comment about Princess Catherine's appearance created ripple effects that extended far beyond the confines of Windsor Castle's ancient walls. As the state banquet continued with its carefully planned courses and diplomatic conversations, the outside world was already beginning to process and react to what had just occurred during the formal speeches. The age of social media and instant global communication meant that Trump's off-script moment would be dissected and analyzed within minutes of its occurrence. Social media platforms erupted almost immediately, with clips of the incident being shared, reshared, and commented upon by millions of users around the world. Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram became forums for heated debates about the appropriateness of Trump's remarks, with opinions sharply divided along predictable lines. Supporters of the president argued that his comments were simply friendly compliments delivered in his characteristic straightforward style, while critics saw the moment as yet another example of his failure to understand diplomatic protocol and appropriate boundaries. The speed with which the incident spread through digital channels highlighted the unique challenges facing modern diplomacy in an era of constant connectivity and immediate global communication. What might have once been a private moment between heads of state and royal family members, discussed only in diplomatic circles and perhaps reported in the following day's newspapers, was now being broadcast live and dissected in real time by audiences spanning every continent. Royal commentators and diplomatic experts found themselves inundated with requests for analysis and context from news organizations around the world. The consensus among these professionals was clear. While Trump had not technically violated any formal protocol rules, his personal commentary represented a significant breach of the unwritten conventions that govern such high-level diplomatic interactions. Royal historian Justin Vovig's earlier assessment of the president's helicopter greeting comments proved prescient, as his description of Trump's behavior having so many levels of cringe resonated perfectly with what had just occurred during the banquet speech. The incident gained additional layers of significance when viewed in the context of Princess Catherine's recent health struggles. Her public battle with cancer, which she had announced in early 2024, followed by her completion of chemotherapy treatment and subsequent declaration in January 2025 that her cancer was in remission, gave Trump's emphasis on her looking so healthy a particular poignancy. While some observers interpreted his remarks as a genuine acknowledgement of her remarkable recovery and return to public duties, others felt that referencing her health struggles, even obliquely, during a formal state occasion was inappropriate and potentially intrusive. The Princess of Wales had been remarkably open about her cancer journey, sharing details about the challenges of treatment and the process of finding a new normal during recovery. She had spoken candidly about the emotional and physical toll of the experience, describing it as a roller coaster that was not smooth like you expect it to be. Her gradual return to public engagements had been carefully managed, with each appearance representing a milestone in her recovery and a demonstration of her commitment to her royal duties. In this context, Trump's comment about her radiant and healthy appearance could be seen as acknowledging her remarkable resilience and successful recovery. However, the public nature of the comment and its delivery during a formal diplomatic speech raised questions about the appropriateness of such personal observations, regardless of their underlying sentiment. The incident highlighted the delicate balance required when public figures discuss health matters, even in what appears to be a positive context. The global reaction to the incident was complicated by the fact that this was not Trump's first controversial comment about a woman's appearance during an international diplomatic engagement. Royal watchers and diplomatic historians were quick to draw comparisons to his 2017 state visit to France, where he had made similarly personal remarks about French First Lady Brigitte Macron's physical condition. During that visit, Trump had told Brigitte Macron that she was in such good shape before turning to her husband, President Emmanuel Macron, and adding, "She's in such good physical shape." This pattern of behavior suggested that Trump's comments about Princess Catherine were not an isolated incident, but rather part of a broader approach to international diplomacy that prioritized personal connection and direct communication over traditional formal protocols. His supporters argued that this style made him more relatable and human than typical political figures, while his critics contended that it demonstrated a fundamental misunderstanding of appropriate diplomatic behavior. The incident also sparked broader discussions about the role of gender in diplomatic interactions and the particular challenges faced by women in public life when their appearance becomes a topic of commentary from male leaders. Feminist commentators noted that Trump's focus on Catherine's physical appearance, while potentially well-intentioned, reduced a highly accomplished woman to her looks rather than acknowledging her substantive contributions to public service and charitable work. Media coverage of the incident varied significantly, depending on the political orientation and cultural context of different news organizations. British media outlets generally treated the story with the understated criticism characteristic of royal reporting, focusing on the breach of protocol while avoiding direct condemnation of a visiting head of state. American media coverage was more sharply divided, with outlets supportive of Trump describing his comments as charming and personable, while those critical of his presidency characterized the incident as yet another diplomatic embarrassment. International media coverage provided perhaps the most interesting perspective on the incident, as foreign observers attempted to understand the cultural dynamics at play between American political culture and British royal tradition. Many European outlets focused on the clash between Trump's informal American communication style and the formal protocols that have governed royal interactions for centuries. The incident also had implications for future diplomatic protocol and training. Diplomatic services around the world would undoubtedly use this incident as a case study in the importance of adhering to prepared remarks during formal occasions and the potential consequences of spontaneous personal commentary during state visits. The moment served as a reminder that even the most carefully planned diplomatic events remain vulnerable to the unpredictable nature of human interaction. As the evening at Windsor Castle continued and eventually concluded, the immediate participants in the incident handled the situation with remarkable professionalism. Princess Catherine maintained her characteristic grace throughout the remainder of the evening, engaging in appropriate conversation with President Trump and other guests without any apparent awkwardness or discomfort. Her ability to navigate such an unexpected moment while maintaining her dignity reinforced her reputation as one of the monarchy's most capable and professional members. The long-term impact of the incident would likely be felt most strongly in the realm of royal protocol training and diplomatic preparation for future state visits. The moment demonstrated that even the most experienced political figures could create unintended diplomatic incidents through spontaneous remarks, highlighting the ongoing importance of careful preparation and adherence to established protocols during such high-stakes international encounters.